All right, guys.
Welcome to the Deer Shop Podcast, presented by Siman Brothers Outdoors and the Leaky John Boat Company.
He went and watched a movie that has a $200 million production budget, and then the next thing he watched was our video on YouTube that has a $0 production budget.
This is the first buck I've shot in over 10 years.
Your track job was the first fun track job. That kind of like, I think part of my life was influenced by that night.
Then you miss him 3 times with a rifle at 70 yards on video for the whole world to see.
That's what Caleb did. 5 years ago, we couldn't shoot a deer at 100 yards with a slug gun. Now you're shooting turkeys at 100 yards with a shotgun.
Joey takes
The shop is closing up.
Make sure he takes all his right antlers. You can't leave it.
All right, so we can just get into it.
Yeah, give the intro, man. We're good.
Alrighty, Deer Shop Podcast. This is going to be episode 80-something. We are in a new location with a couple new guests. Uncle Jay, obviously. And then we have his taxidermist and friend, Zoran Savetsky, correct?
Yes.
Okay. From Highpoint Taxidermy.
Mm-hmm. Is it Thornburg, right?
Thornville.
Thornville. Yeah.
Okay.
So for those of you that don't know, I work in Columbus, and I became friends with Zoran. Shit, you did my turkey, almost 15 years ago? Mm-hmm. So we've been, I would say we're friends first, business second, you know. But the business keeps us in touch, and I've brought him, I've tried to bring him as much business as possible. He's a great guy, and I would say as good of a taxidermist as he is, he's even a better dude because he just drove almost 2 hours and some change to bring me my shit.
Which are these two mounts we have on the sides of the
so I had a good year 2 years or a year ago, and
these are both 2023, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you shot these within a couple months of each other?
Yeah, that was September. That was November.
They've been done for a little while. We're just trying to find the time.
Oh, yeah. Also, like, that was a lot. The mounts have been done for a while. This, if you can see, is the whiskey barrel that I brought to him in shambles. And he was nice enough to put it together for me because literally as him and I were pulling it out of the truck, it was falling apart. I mean, it was literally falling apart. And I'm like, good God, can you even use this thing? And he's like, I'll make it work. You know?
If you guys are listening to this, like on your car radio or whatever, check out YouTube. I'll show some video of these mounts, probably before the podcast started. So if you're watching, you already saw them. But those are pretty much the centerpiece of today's podcast, are these two mounts on our left and right here.
Yeah, but we're at my house, by the way.
Yeah, we're at Jay's house. Yeah. So that's why it's a different looking atmosphere than normal. The deer shop right now is about 20 degrees.
Yeah.
Because it is not heated.
But I was telling Zoran earlier that I posted this mount, a picture of it, on Iowa Bow Hunters, which has several thousand people on it, their Facebook page. And I had no less than, I mean, hundreds of hearts and dozens of, that's the best mount I've ever seen.
Yeah, when you initially sent it to us, and I don't know if those were pictures that you took or he took, but they were kind of like professional looking.
Does your wife take those?
She does.
Yeah, they were like, I knew it.
If she listens to this, she goes, you son of a bitch.
So they were professional looking pictures, and we sent them around, and everyone was like, holy shit, looks like something from a magazine. Just the way the pictures were and obviously how the mount looks.
But I think that's a good segue into going into, a professional taxidermist versus a hobbyist.
Yeah, so let's let Zoran introduce himself a little bit. Just kind of tell us who you are, what you do.
So I own Highpoint Taxidermy, and we're in Thornville, Ohio. I did not want to do a podcast. I'm not good in front of the camera, not good on the radio, whatever. But
so not that we tricked him into doing it, but we also have been drinking some whiskey this morning.
That helps. Yeah, loosen up. Just talk to us, man. You don't even need to look at that thing. Don't even just forget that's there.
So my job, I don't know if I like it because I like what I do for a living, or I get to meet some knuckleheads that it's just a complete pleasure when their project comes up that I get to put it together. So to me, that's more important, I think, than actually doing the work. So I've met some good people.
When did you get started?
17 years ago.
What got you into it?
Okay, so I used to love deer hunting. I owned 2 pizza shops in Columbus, and I hated it. And I had a good friend at the time introduced me to deer hunting. He took me out. I didn't have a bow, and I just sat underneath the tree that he hunted out of. And not to make a long story, I'll try to make it short as possible.
We got all the time in the world, bro.
So a deer came out of the woods, and it was literally it was a cornfield that just had the perimeter cut, and the doe came literally 2 feet in front of my face, and she wheezed right in my face. I felt snot, her breath right on me, and I started shaking, and my buddy is laughing his ass off right above me, 20 feet up in the air or 15 feet up in the air, and she just didn't do nothing but just bobbed her head up and down and just walked around me. And I thought that was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. And then after that, I spent $5,000 at Galleons at the time, and I got tree stands, hunting clothes, I got a bow, I got a gun that I didn't need yet, but I bought it all. And ever since then, hooked. And then all those friends that I'm still friends with, they were like, there's no city slicker that's going to do taxidermy, because I thought I went to Ohio State, and I was in an art degree, so industrial design, and I thought I'm pretty good with my hands, and I see some of the stuff these guys do. I think I could do that. And so all my friends said there's no city slicker can mount a deer. So at the beginning of Gun Week that year, I was getting ready to go hunt with them, and they were like, hey, you're just going to stay here, and you're going to mount this deer. So they ordered a form from Van Dyke's. They had this deer cape that was, at the time, I thought it was cool, but it was terrible. But they're all my friends, and they were like, this is the way it's done. So I put it together while they hunted. And they came back, and they were like, oh, all right. And I was like, does it not look good? They were like, yeah, looks good. So we left. And the next weekend, the second weekend of that gun season, I came back to hunt, and I was all ready to go. And they were like, oh, whoa. We got 2 of them here for you. You're going to mount 2 of them today.
It just grew from there.
Yeah, and then I put them together, and after that, I just became fixated with it. And we ended up selling the pizza shops, and I had another friend say, hey, there's a taxidermy shop for sale. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool. And then that's when they all made fun of me that I can't mount a deer, and I'll never do it for a living. So it's pretty cool to say that.
Yeah. Joke's on them.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but
yeah,
it's good that I'm pretty humbled what I do. So you'll never meet somebody more humbled to do what I do for a living and make a living of it.
I couldn't agree more with that for sure. I mean,
I love my job.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I mean, it shows. You know what I mean? Like when we talk about, so just throw it out there. Zoran has done Isaac's bear, my bear. This is the first deer you've done for me, I think. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the only deer I've
'cause
shot.
all these are pretty old, aren't they?
Yeah. All these unimpressive ones are old. And you did that was the first turkey you did for me. And that's how we met, I think, because it was my first turkey with a bow. So, and when I saw that and I got that, I was like, oh, this is my guy. And then, fast friends. And I also have a Miriam turkey that you did for me, which is one of my favorite mounts that shamefully is in my bonus room because I just don't have the room. And, so he does all game. All. Is there anything you won't do?
Pets. We will not do pets anymore.
Valid.
Anymore.
There's got to be a story to this.
There's a lot of stories to this because it's disheartening to see the person that the pet passed away and it's their best friend. I'm a dog lover, so I can't imagine my dog passing away. But when you see their face, you can't mess up. And not that we messed up, but it's just weird.
And there's
you have to do a completely different thing, and it's to create a form for something that doesn't have a form. So we have to carcass cast it. And when I quote them a price, they're like, you're out of your mind, which is fine. I mean, I get it. But there's like 60 hours in just creating the form.
That's really, that's disturbing.
And then skinning somebody's dog.
It's weird. No way. No way.
It's weird. And I didn't want to do it, so I made my guy do it. And my guy said, I'll quit. I'm out. If I have to do this again, I'm out. We're all dog lovers.
Are there people that like do just pets?
Yeah, it's freeze dried. So I mean, to us, it's, a deer is something that's big in our shop that comes in. We get the most of.
Yeah, sure.
So pet taxidermists will have a big industrial freeze dryer, and there's different versions of it, but they do that specifically, and they do good, and that's where I suggest everybody to go to.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that anymore.
Dude.
It's a little creepy.
I'm out on that.
A little.
I mean, we've done. There's we've done parrots, we've done cats, we've done one dog. After the dog, that was done.
That was it.
That was it. I can't do it because I picture my dog, and my dog's like my best friend. So
Yeah, dude.
I can't do it.
You got to say goodbye.
Yeah, we're gonna bury him by the pond and call it a day.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was awesome.
Because where do you draw that line? Grandma?
I wasn't gonna bring that up, but I was thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, grandma making Thanksgiving dinner.
Thanks for not bringing it up. That's good.
I want to, before we get a little further, I want to jump back into your history a little bit. So you said you were going to art school, or you had a history in some sort of art?
Yeah. I loved art, so I had a chance to go to CCAD, Columbus College of Art and Design, but they only gave me a $30,000 scholarship, and I was quite pissed, and I should have just took it. So
I'd imagine that's a school that's pretty expensive.
Yeah. Yes. So I ended up going to Ohio State to get a big all-around liberal degree, whatever. I got a degree and I hated my job. So when this came around, an opportunity, I ended up getting a divorce later on after we got the shop, but I got to concentrate on my job. So I think, I know I got better. So we're always trying to get better, but I love my job. So, and it's really up my alley. I don't have to go into an office and stare at a computer screen, and I can go out in the field. I can do stuff that's different every day.
Well, I bring that up because not to downplay the taxidermists around here, but we have a lot of taxidermists around here. Probably, 20 people mounting deer within 15 minutes of here. And most of them are hunters first. They're blue collar workers first. Then they kind of started the taxidermy and went on from there. So they're basically good old boys that are doing taxidermy.
Hey, I respect those guys, and I am friends with a lot of those guys. So I've learned a lot from the hobbyists, because some of those guys, they only do 10 or 20 deer for their buddies, but those guys get a chance to experiment. They get a chance to learn or find out something different that so if you come to us, I feel an injustice because I charge what I charge because I have to. It's not because I think my shit don't stink. I have to charge that to pay the bills.
Yeah, you have a huge shop. You have employees.
I have like
you have
5 guys
showroom.
that make $25 to $30 an hour. So my payroll is ridiculous. And our profession is not something where you're going to get rich. You're just not. You have to love your job and wake up every morning at 4:35 to go to work and stay for 12 to 14 hours. So I've learned a lot from the hobbyists. So I've traveled to different states to learn from what I thought was people that did their stuff the best. Bears, deer, cats. So I've learned a lot, and I've incorporated it into the shops, and then I teach around my guys. And then sometimes my guys will go somewhere, I'll send them, and they'll learn something, and they bring it back to the shop. So we've grown. And there's never a time where I think, okay, we can't do any better. There's never going to be, I don't think there'll ever be a point where we'll be at that point.
I love that, because it's one of my favorite quotes is, show me a thoroughly satisfied man and I'll show you a failure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, if you think you're doing that good, I mean, there's always some
You're
way
missing
you
something.
can, whether you can improve on the project, or you can improve the time frame, or you can improve your relationship with your customer. There's something you can improve. So for us, there's something cool that comes out every year, and we want to learn. So this year we're going to have all our guys. We're just going to go to the Ohio Taxidermy Show, where the Ohio taxidermists pound their chest and say who's the best, and we're going to learn from those guys.
Yeah.
I mean,
so there's taxidermist competitions, right?
yeah, in every state.
Do you do them?
No, because, I mean, I'm not going to slam on any taxidermist, but no taxidermist, and I know everybody that's a taxidermist that listens to this, they're going to agree. You're not going to give something that you would win a master's in to your client, or you would charge $3,000 for a shoulder mount.
Yeah, you're not going to mount 100 deer a year.
Right. It's just not
level.
happening. You're right. I mean, my payroll a week is bullshit. It's ridiculous. But I have to pay it, and I have to come up with a way to give the best product for the amount of money I'm charging, or to make it feasible for somebody to pay that money. Because you're right. I mean, the guy down the street, Terry, he's awesome. Good person. He does about 50, 60 deer, and that's all he'll do. He might do an elk. But he's good.
That's
He's good.
that's pretty common for around here.
Yeah, and we talk.
Yeah.
Another guy, Toby Burdett, he's good people. He does a good-looking deer. I got nothing. I mean, what am I going to say? We shoot the bull. He'll come over and say, I need clay, or I'll say, I need some glue. I'm out till my order comes in. So
I think that speaks to your humbleness, though. You know what I mean? Like, you're still, like, it is what it is, and they have their thing, you have yours, but it doesn't.
No need to fight or argue or say you're
right.
better than the other, or that's ridiculous.
Because I get the, with some of the locals, I feel like there's a little bit of community there as well, where as a customer, I feel like that would be a sword fight.
I would not get mad if you took your deer to a local because you're friends with him, you see him. Mm-hmm. We're still going to talk. I'm not going to treat you any different, and it's your decision. You work your ass off for your money, so you should go where you want.
Well, it's funny. You like just our relationship. You've said that to me. I think on an antelope, my last antelope I killed. I was texting you and like, hey, this is my timeline. What is the best way to handle the cape? You know, I've got it caped out. Like, do I salt it? Do I, and you go, hey, dude, if it's too much, take it to someone there.
Yeah.
Take it to someone there. And I'm like, I have a gross sense of loyalty, so I'm going to do what it takes to give you the business. But you were very like, it's a lot of work to get it to me, but if it's easier, just take it to somebody there and have them ship it. It might be easier.
I mean, I love the fact that you're giving me the chance and you're calling me, and I feel impelled. I don't care if it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I know you well enough where I'm going to answer my call. So I had a guy actually yesterday that went on a cougar hunt. He goes, well, he was in Montana. He goes, I didn't shoot a big cat, and it was the last day. And I was like, Ryan, you don't have to tell me. He goes, I left it there. I was like, okay. You happy? You happy with the person? He goes, I don't know, maybe. But he goes, I was afraid to get it skinned, fleshed, and prepped. That means the eyes, lips, nose, and ears turned. You have to shave all that off, all the fat and meat off of it. Then you have to salt it, let it dry. Salt it twice, let it dry the next day. So he didn't have time. So I'm not mad at him. He just picked up his javelina. I think he loved it. I saw his face, so I feel pretty good about it. But I'm not mad at him. Yeah. I am not mad. I get it. Because you don't want to go on a hunt that you saved, even if you didn't save, if you had the money, it's your money. So you should do what you feel is more comfortable and what you want.
I think I stepped on you. You were going to say something.
I don't remember what I was going to say. I was just going to say.
Maybe I talk too much.
No, you don't.
That's fine.
It's a tough podcast.
I remember when I shot my bear, we called him right away.
Yeah.
We came off the mountain. We had to find service to ask what we were going to do with this bear because we got 12 days left of this hunt. We're 1,500 miles from home, but we were able to get it frozen. I wanted to get into that in a little bit on what we can do, especially in our style of hunting.
Well, I agree with your style. I love that style. So I get it. I know what you're talking about.
It's kind of like the do-it-yourself, but road trip style hunting. So we may shoot a deer and we won't be able to get it back home for 2 weeks.
Right.
And we have to find a way to get it home over a course of 2 or 3 days, which is obviously super hard to keep a cape.
Sure.
Good.
So you no matter what happens, you have to get the skin off the carcass. And then if you have no means of freezing it, you have to be able to, when I say split, that means you have to turn the ears, eyes, lips, and nose inside out. And you have to cut to where that groove comes, the circle in the nose, the circle or the turn in the lips, all the way up into the crease of the ear. You have to get it right there where it's flat. Then you have to shave it down thin, and then you salt it. The salt is what...
And that's if you can't freeze it.
If you can't freeze it. Or you just go...
So it sounds like it's a lot easier if you can just cape it up to the jawline.
And freeze it.
Yeah.
That's the best way.
Because that's what I've always done. That's what he did.
So I am the type of person that if I like somebody, I will pay the extra money and have somebody else do it till I get it to my guy. But some guys are a little afraid of that, which I completely respect. So they leave it there, which completely understand. But at least if you bring it back to your dude or the guy that's close to you, you at least have a chance to talk. And I mean, you can beat him up. You know, if something, God forbid, happens that's not good with your trophy, he's down the road or a couple hours away where you say, hey, what's up with this? It's hard to do that with somebody 10 states away or across the country. So I say bring it back to your person.
So this might be a kind of a maybe you have to think about this one, but I was going to save this question to the end, but it's a perfect segue. What would be, as a customer, if you were a customer, not knowing what you know, but answering it as the professional, if you were a customer in a situation where you're going to have a new taxidermist, what would be like your top 3 or 5 questions that you would ask that taxidermist to like weed them out, or almost like, I'm going to go with you?
Well, I would say go look at their work. That's the most important thing. So there's not really a question, because if somebody owns their own business, somewhere in there, if they're successful, they have to know how to talk to a customer, so you can find a way to bullshit people. So it's hard for me to bullshit somebody. So I tell everybody, just come into the shop and check it out. If you like what you see, that's what you're going to get.
So let me follow that up. I have a friend of mine who did an African hunt. He did that, saw this taxidermist work, and the dude dipped. So like,
That's the hardest part.
So that I feel like there's more to that than just looking at someone's work. There has to be like some sort of gauge of the person and how they answer the questions or whatever.
Kind of how long they've been around.
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
I mean, that's good. You could research now everything.
Right.
Google.
Right.
So look at reviews.
Right.
You know, I just was told by one of our customers, a new customer that came in and was like, hey, you have like 140 some reviews. That's like 130 more than anybody that I saw around you. So I was like, oh, I mean, I didn't even know.
You've never asked me for a review.
Yeah, I don't ever ask anybody for a review. So if you feel impelled to put a review, put it up there. I looked, funny, like not even a month ago, I had a review that we didn't answer a phone and something about a duck mount. So I'll get to that in just a second. I couldn't help not answering my phone because I was probably on the phone with somebody else. But the duck, I mean, sometimes when you shoot something, especially a bird, I'm not God. I can't put feathers back on, nor can nobody else. So you do the best job. So we've learned in the last 5 years, if it can't look good, we're just not going to do it. I'd rather somebody be mad at me for not doing it than.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I mean, we're not perfect.
Yeah.
I'd love to say, yeah,
Right.
shit don't stink. But
well, and I think there's a lot of taxidermists that are like, I don't care if you bring what you bring me, I'll make it work. And then it
That's
comes out
hard.
looking like Sloth from Goonies.
I'm pretty ethical. So if I know it's not going to look good, I'll at least give a customer or a client an option. Say, hey, I got an extra cape. I mean, we have extra Cape buffalo, we have extra elk, we have extra moose, we have extra mule deer, we have extra everything.
It's funny you bring that up because that makes me think of the first antelope I shot. We don't need to get into the gory details. It was a terrible, terrible situation where I told you about it. You said, doesn't sound great, but
That's
that's
the hardest animal to keep fresh is an antelope because the hair's hollow. So
yeah. And you're like, I'm going to be upfront with you. This is your first antelope. You haven't asked me about the cost yet. It's not going to be cheap. And I'm like, yeah, it's my first antelope. You know, DIY antelope, it's a big deal to me. It's no trophy measurement wise, but it's a trophy to me. And
that's right.
You reached out to me later and said, hey, dude, I'm borderline wanting you to get a new cape because it's pretty beat up. And I go, you know what? Whatever we got to do between us, I want that cape. That's that antelope's cape. That's how I feel about it. I know you well enough to know you're going to do the best job you can. Maybe it doesn't look the greatest, but that can stay between us. I'm not going to put it on social media or whatever because that, like, people misinterpret those things.
Of course. Here's the problem. The hunters sometimes don't want to look dumb to their buddies, so they'll say, it's the taxidermist. So I get the wrath of God on social media and friends saying, well, that guy sucks. Well, you don't know if that guy that's what he had to deal with.
He brought me a rotten cape that's been sitting in the back of the truck for 3 days.
So I know you well enough where you'll tell your buddies, well, that's what it was.
Yeah.
So a lot of people won't do that.
Well, and and to like wrap it up in a pretty little bow, it showed up and I was like, that was a problem. Like, it looks amazing. It looks effing amazing.
Wow. I mean, you had to cut out a little space, put everything back together, and then whether this part matched up with this part, it was like a little jigsaw, but
Yeah.
it worked out.
And
It
that's
worked
the
out
one that's upstairs?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks, I mean, it looks great.
It was respectable for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you look at your work just like anybody else would for a craftsman that they are. You notice a million things on it. Like you could probably look at this bear and notice a million things. And to us, it's an
I have
awesome
so
looking
much.
bear.
That's a whole nother hour of talk. And so my wife was like, you just got to shut your mouth. They're going to love it. I'm like, well, I have a problem with it. So
Yeah, because
that's a
you'll
problem.
look at the back and be like, hey, those two hairs just don't line up because I sewed,
right.
I
Or a
sewed it
scar
quarter
that
inch
I
off.
could have showed a little bit more. So it's very,
It's hilarious you say that because I was doing a tour of my house. I took him up in the bonus room, and the Miriam mount he did for me is up there. And I'm like showing him around, and I'm like, I notice he's not even paying attention to what I'm saying, and he's fucking with the feathers. he's like putting it.
I just want to say,
shit.
where'd you drag this through the floor? I mean, seriously.
Well, I mean, it's been sitting up there for
I just wanted to
7
backhand
years.
you.
Oh yeah, that's an old mount, older. Yeah, so
So I have an OCD problem, and I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but it's
probably shitty for you, awesome
dude,
for us.
Yeah, I if I walk by something, everything goes blank. And so I'm like looking at it, I'm like, oh, well,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
exactly right. You're
Yeah,
right. You
it
caught
was-
that?
Yo, fuck yeah. It's like he's fucking psychopath.
So here's a personal question when it comes to other mounts. So when you're
Oh,
someone's
dude, I already
house
know.
or Cabela's or wherever, and you see other people's mounts, do you
know.
even look at it, or you
I
just,
don't
you
even
just don't
talk
even look
about
at
it. You know, it's not my place because I am not perfect. I try to be, but I'm not. I'm not going to ever probably be perfect. But you can't tell somebody, oh, that sucks and that's great, because it's not your place. You're not the one that busted your ass to make the money to pay for that. So if they're happy with that, that's their trophy. And guess what? That's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And look at it.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, good job.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just the way it works.
I mean, it's like calling someone's baby ugly.
Yeah.
You know what
I
I
would
mean?
punch
Like-
somebody in the face.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Because,
You look
because
at your
that
phone
person,
and
like,
that's an ugly baby.
yeah, yeah.
You're not gonna tell 'em that.
You think it, or like call it, like, I'll tell you, this is funny, buddies of mine that are in the vet med industry, the number one offensive thing you can say is your dog is fat. People lose their shit.
I'll lose my shit. My dog's not fat. He's really fat, but he's not really not fat.
Right.
He's just a big dog.
And according to vets, 90% of dogs are overweight.
Yeah, for sure. So, I'm guessing it's that parallel between, look, man, like,
You can't say nothing. So that's my
Yeah,
point about that.
right.
You can't.
you can
Because-
say shit about your work.
That's right.
Like, you come back to my house next year and you see one of your mounts going, hey, why does that look like that? That looks like shit. I'm going to fix it.
Yeah, and
You know,
I'll be
because
honest with you,
because I fucked it up hanging it or something, you know.
I've taken mounts back to the shop to touch them up a little bit, and then that's where you learn. You're like, I don't want this to happen again because I don't want to waste my time. I mean, the bottom line for me is I have to make money. I don't have a choice. I love my job. I love my craft. I love the people that come to us. I mean, I love the people. I get to meet knuckleheads like you guys. I mean, dude, I'm telling you right now, I'm a 50-50, whether I love my job or I love the people that come. So I'm grateful. And I see something, I'm like, fuck. And I'm like, hey, how about I take that back to refresh it? It doesn't happen often, but I have to do it. That's just my bottom line.
Well, and it's kind of hard to tell what a mount's going to do over the course of decades as well. With how long you've been doing this.
Well, that's my point. That's why I want to do better, because I want it to last. I don't want you to pay, whether it's $600 or $1,000 for a shoulder mount, and then 4 or 5 years it looks like crap. That's terrible.
Well, I think that's a good one of the things I wanted to bring up. I think taxidermy is one of those odd things that, in general, I feel with you get what you pay for. There are also hobbyists that charge what you charge. You don't get what you pay for. So it's one of those things that you need to do your research and understand, what are you buying? Are you buying a legacy piece? Because that's what this is to me. I hope.
I treat that like it would a 80-inch deer.
Yeah.
There's no different. I love to tickle your butt
Right.
and say I did the best job, but I'll do that to the kid's first 80-inch deer.
Right. Yeah. And you're going to, the customer is going to pay for that. And that is as the customer, are you looking for something that's going to get thrown on your wall for 10 years? Or do you want something as the kid that's going to go hunting? Typically is a legacy thing. How cool is it that something you mount is going to be generational
That's our end goal.
To be hanging up in somebody's house for 50 years.
Because it's the same thing I draw for these guys that do their videos and stuff. Like their motivation, this is their scrapbook that they're going to hand down to their kids. Because before us, it was flip books of Polaroids. Before that, it was journals.
Sure.
And how cool is that can be something tangible to hand down? That this was your grandpa's first deer.
Well, you know how stressful that is for me? Because I think about that when I see their people when they walk in. They're so excited and they're like, and I'm like, fuck, I can't fuck this up.
Can't mess this one up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's
awesome.
Every deer, every animal, it doesn't matter, especially when somebody goes, and pays $60,000 for a desert bighorn or, a Marco Polo. How do you, when you get that in, you're just like, it's like walking on glass. You cannot F that up.
Right.
You cannot. So everything is focused on that animal, or it doesn't matter if it's a 8-inch deer or a $80,000 Marco Polo hunt. So that's how I look at it. I get my balls busted a lot because like, you're too busy with the big stuff. And I'm like, you don't even know. Because I'm telling you right now, when that kid walks in and his eyes light up on that 110-inch they just shot in the first deer, dude, that's awesome. You can't beat it.
That may be more exciting than
That
some
to me
guy
is
that's gone on
more,
50 hunts.
I am so pumped for that kid because I'm like, you're hooked, you little mother.
I mean, it's it's the extreme, right? You got that, and then you got Jimmy Johns.
Right,
that
right.
fucking asshole. Like, you know what I mean? Like that guy, fuck that guy. Like, I mean, like some fat fuck who's a multi-millionaire. This is my opinion. I'm not speaking for you, but like, he's like stoked about whatever hunt he paid for versus that little kid. You know, I don't know, man. If I were you, I would get so much more excited.
I do.
About that.
I'm not trying to feed you a line of shit, but
Yeah.
that's just the way it is. When the dad brings in his boy or his girl, and you're like, holy shit, this is awesome. I get to experience that because I know what it's like with my kids. So that's a big deal to me.
And that's an extension of the hunt that they went on with their dad, or it might have been the last hunt they went on to their grandpa.
Right.
They look at the wall and they remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And business-wise, I'm like, I got that little motherfucker for another 30 years.
Yeah, he's going to bring me 50 more mounts.
Yeah.
Is that terrible to say?
No, it's
No.
tangible memories, dude. Like this buck in the middle here is like I'm not sure there's a moment that will ever top that when it comes to every time I look at that thing, the memories that come with that, the emotions that come with that, like that's probably a podcast of its own. But that is, to me, taxidermy is art. Tattoos are art. Taxidermists, tattooists are artists. Mm-hmm. And that is something that will far surpass like a picture.
I agree.
You know what I mean? And put a price on that.
You can't. That's why
You can't.
That's why my job is so stressful. Hence why I am minus probably hair. I'm telling you, because
join the crowd.
Well, I mean, my job gets really stressful, but I still love it because I feel like we do pretty good. We can always do better, and I'm telling you, I have a connection with the people that come, so that's very important. And there's big taxidermy studios that just have their shit together for business, and I'm trying to get there, but I can't help myself. My fingers have to be on every single piece that walks out of the shop.
Do you feel like there's Do you feel like there's diminishing returns between having your shit together business wise and then losing that connection with people?
If that happens, I probably won't do it for a living. That's all. Because if I can't at least talk to the people, let alone do something on their animal, then I feel like I'm doing an injustice for them. That's how I feel about it. So I could go work for a union and make $60, $70 an hour, but I feel like I can do that, or I can manage a lot of people, or do something else where I can make a lot more money, but I don't because I love my job. I love what I do, and then I love to see the people. So these big guys that have their shit together, I mean, that's my goal. That's my end goal. I want that. but I still want my fingers on everything. That to me means a lot when I say, well, I finished your stuff. So we have our bird guy, Mark, we have Matt, we have Jack, and we're going to hopefully get this fella, Sean, from Pennsylvania to come. So my wife does all the paperwork and then me, so I get to finish all their stuff. So that to me means a lot when I say, or when they leave with it, I did something to their, to their memory.
I was going to ask, you actually answered the question for me. I was going to ask, when animals are coming in and going out, how many of those animals do you actually get your hands on? Everyone. It sounds like every single one.
Yeah. I mean, it just is. I hate to sub out stuff, but I don't even sub out the birds. I mean, the guy's worked for us for 17 years. The whole time I've had it, he's done all our birds, and he does a good job. Sometimes on a bird is the hardest thing. If you shoot up a bird, like one time I had a fella bring in a turkey with a bag full of feathers separate. He's like, hey, can you put these back? And I'm like, fuck. And I'm like, probably not, but I'm going to try. And he was upset because everything didn't lay on it perfect, but it was his bird. He shot it and he wanted that back. So he was mad, but he wasn't mad. I mean, I'm not God. I can't put to the whatever to make everything perfect, but it looked really good. I still have it on our website. It was from 16, 17 years ago, right when I opened the shop up. It's still up there because it's just a point.
Yeah.
See,
I don't know what to do to that. I mean,
I might have a different opinion than most folks when it comes to the way taxidermy looks, because obviously you want it to look natural. You want it to look like the animal when you shot it, but you also shot the animal. So I don't mind if there's, like a lot of people, 1/4-inch shot, you'll see that on a shoulder mount.
it might be a faint little line, unless they say, leave the gap, leave that big hole.
I don't mind that you can tell where it was, because yes, it was a wild, beautiful animal, but you also did shoot it and kill it. So like, if that shows on there, it's no big deal.
Well, they go through a wild animal will go through a lot of shit in its life where it'll not be perfect. I have a really good friend and a really good customer, probably more my friend. He'll never watch this. I don't mind saying his name, Rich Cornea. He wants it perfect. I mean, every hair to be perfect. He goes, if I'm paying you this mother effing money, this thing better look like it's a movie star. And I'm like, and we come to a realization where he'll bring the animal in and he goes, I need a new cape. And I'm like,
No
okay,
shit.
that's fine.
I couldn't be more opposite.
Well, I mean, it's fine,
same.
but he's very passionate what he does. But he is a little bit older, and he told me, he goes, I'm not spending after November in the woods. I rather have a glass of
enjoy
bourbon.
his life. Yeah,
and be warm. So he goes, make it happen, and he leaves. But we bullshit all the time. And to me, when he calls, I answer the call because it's my friend now.
See,
That's hard.
I'm just opposite, because like scars and shit, like this fucker here, it was the gnarliest experience, I think, when it came to an actual like physical disability to a deer or something. I don't know what happened. I shot this thing. It did a header into a tree, and then when I got it, it had like this crazy over-under bite.
Oh, yeah, an overbite.
But I don't know if it was from running into the tree or that was...
That's the way it grows.
And then it had this crazy mucus in its like sinus cavity. Oh. Which I'm guessing is why it still had velvet on Halloween. So, it was like, I'm trying to wrap it around. It all happened so fast. I'm like, it ran into this tree. Did it break its jaw? But then I'm like, nah, maybe it just got, because of the over-under bite, whatever. It was just odd. It was a small-bodied deer. So I think overall, it was a freak of a deer that wasn't that old that ended up with a malformation of some sort that made it unhealthy.
It's an infection.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they don't have medicine like we do. They're just going to grow with it and overcome that infection and live. But there's a problem with it. So it is what it is. But the point of all that is, if that's what you want, that's what every taxidermist is going to try to do. But if you don't want that, you just tell the guy, hey, give me a new cape.
Yeah, I want somebody to go, what's that line? And I go, I don't know. Fuck, let's talk about it.
Exactly.
Could be a fence, could be a previous wound,
or somebody shot it, didn't get it, and it grew back.
Let's talk about it. Let's have that conversation. I love that shit.
But you can't say that for this guy that wants something that's perfect.
No.
So that's
absolutely
their
not.
thing.
Absolutely.
And it is what it is.
Different strokes for different folks, man.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
I mean, we've had guys, like I just dropped off 4 deer to a fella, and I'm not blowing smoke up my ass, but he goes, I can't look at these deer and then have your deer. So I was like, oh, thank you. That was pretty nice. So he goes, he took one off the wall, and he had a Sawzall, and he started cutting. I was like, what are you doing?
Jesus.
He goes, you're going to remount this one. So I was like, what were you going to say? Okay.
Be like, hey, I could take the whole thing. You don't have to.
Yeah, he was like, no. He
You have
goes,
to cut it open in front of me.
I don't want you to want
That's
the
wild.
form. I don't want nothing. I just remount it. And he goes, you just pick whatever you think. It's going to go over here. So I was like, okay. So I got to
Wow.
come back today. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. That speaks a lot.
I love that.
Yeah.
But that makes my job even harder, because then you're like, well, if I pick this, you might not like it. At least I can come back with something like, well, you picked the pose, buddy.
Right.
But I can't with nothing. So if he tells me to pick the pose, that's even harder. So,
Yeah.
But my guys are awesome. So I love to say it's all me, but if my guys can't do something, that means it's harder for me to do something. So they're fantastic. I can't even say how blessed I am to have those people work for me.
Yeah.
And obviously that can help you push out more animals and take more animals in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't have to babysit them. I can do my job. They do their job. And if there's a problem with something, like we had one deer last week that had the whole bottom eyelid missing. So Jack was like, hey, he opened it up. I was like, what the? It looks like somebody shot it with a bazooka. I mean, it was just a big opening. There was no lashes, no nothing. So we had to make that work. And it turned out awesome so far. So now I have to try to put some lashes back, which I got a fix for. We got a big brown bear. That's like, the outfitter did not prep the hide right. So right where we sewed it, beautiful hair on this side, and then just a line of nothing. So I think I got a solution for it, but we had to order another extra skin of a chocolate black bear. So I think I can match it up. And
So that's this is going to be a 2-part question, probably a 4-part, but so what's your number one piece of advice for your everyday person to get the best product when they bring it to a taxidermist?
you take care of your trophy as soon as you shoot it. I mean, you're excited and you're like, oh yeah. And then we have some guys that drive around, show their deer off, or they'll leave it somewhere, which they're just excited and overwhelmed, and they got what they went for accomplished. So they forget about sometimes the prep of the animal. So the prep of the animal, if it's not done right, you can't expect something that's not treated properly or taken care of to come out properly. Because if you don't take care of getting the fat and the meat off ASAP, bacteria sets in, and that's where you lose hair. That's the biggest problem.
So I'm going to, not to interrupt, but I'm going to tell you kind of how it kind of works around here with our group of friends, and when we shoot deer and then how we treat them afterwards. We usually shoot them, show them off, and then they hang.
Sure.
For 3, 4, 5, 7 days.
If it's chilly, cool.
Skin on. Is that okay?
That's okay.
Should you try to skin them right away, then just have the
For
carcass
me,
hang?
the way so I'm on this. I don't do Facebook much, but I love the fact that I can see what people's opinions are and actually see what's happened. So I'm on this meat processing page, and these guys are like, take the skin off. And I've tried it both ways. For me, meat tastes better if you take the skin off and let the deer hang for at least 4 or 5 days. I let it hang for 7 or 8 days, but it's got to be a little bit chilly. But you got to take the skin off. So taking the skin off is the most important to treat it for your trophy, because you don't want it just to sit there and have a chance. Bacteria is what kills.
Yeah, because
your
we'll be
trophy.
hanging it, and it may be 32 at night, but then it'll be 48 during the day. And
That should be all right, 4 or 5 days. But after that 5th day, the 5th day is really the determining factor. I mean, it's just inevitable. Something's going to happen.
Well, one of this is just a little tidbit that I would have never put together if it weren't for you was, and I can't remember if it was an antelope or maybe even my bear, but you told me when you put it in your cooler, keep it cracked.
Yeah, so it could breathe.
Yeah. I would have never, it's just habit.
No plastic.
That you locked your cooler down.
The biggest thing is if you fridge something or keep it cold, to keep plastic off so it could breathe, so that moisture leaves.
You put it in a bag, it'll be full of water in the bottom.
That's right. So drain the water out. So if you put it in a freezer, you have to have plastic around it because you don't want the moisture to leave. That causes freezer burn. Freezer burn is impossible. I mean, it'll be like working with a cardboard box. It'll never be able to soak in moisture so you can rehydrate it and stretch it and do what you got to do with it.
So if you're going to fridge it, keep it open. If you're going to freeze it, plastic bag.
Plastic bag, have to.
Like
double plastic.
Contractor?
Yeah, something
Contractor
heavy
bag.
duty
where
moisture doesn't leave. Because you want the moisture staying in the freezer. You don't want it to get freezer burn.
Cool. That's great advice.
And this might be the second part of your question, but for educational purposes, somewhere in this podcast, I kind of want to run through the scenario of what me and Jay are doing this year. We're doing two different things, but kind of the game prep will be the same. Backcountry hunting, maybe have to be on the mountain a couple days after you shoot it. So I shoot an elk, he shoots a moose. What kind of rundown should we do immediately to the animal? Should we try to skin it immediately, cool it down?
That's all dependent on weather. So if it's chilly, skinning it out is the best. So I tell everybody, hey, just if you want to learn how to skin it off the face, I mean, a monkey can do it. You just have to know how or see it a couple times. So I tell them, just come in the shop and I'll show you on something that we get. Whether it's a bear, elk, deer, doesn't matter. The job's pretty much the same. You got to push the eyeball in, pull the skin out, and take your knife against the bone and take everything off. So for you to come in for an hour and do that, we can schedule something, is impeccable for your mouth to come out right. You can't just skin everything and shave off eyelids, shave off part of the nose, part of the lips. So go see your local taxidermist and say, hey, I really want to do this and I don't want to F it up. So please help me. And they will. They should. I would. I mean, even if it's a before hours or after hours, even if you have to pay them something, you should definitely do that. Invest, because that's your investment. So you don't want to F up your investment. You might as well learn how to take it off the face. So if you take it off the face, you got a lot more time to play with it because you don't have horns or antlers to deal with. You can pack it away properly. Then if you really want to be anal about it, learn how to shave it down, split the eyes, lips, nose, and ears, and then shave all that fat and meat off. So in Alaska, when we go, I do all that. So the guys love it. And they'll help me do the main body, and I'll do the paws and the face. And we salt them down, and it is what it is.
Nice.
So we don't have a freezer to put them in. So we have to do it there in the field.
What has been your biggest challenge? This is the two-part. What's been your biggest challenge project?
I mean, every project is a challenge.
But there has to have been one that had been like this fucking thing. Where it ended up coming out great, but it was just like maybe the customer wanted something crazy or...
So same guy, and I won't say his name. He's pretty private, which I completely respect, but we did a 11-foot-something alligator, and I was like, hey, dude, never done one. He goes, do you want to try it? I was like, sure. He was like, how much? I was like, I don't know. I mean,
so he wanted a full body,
life-size gator. Oh my
Jesus.
God. And he goes, and I want the real head on. I don't want a fake one on. I was like, so I called my tannery, and I'm from a guy from Central Ohio that does not do, well, at that point, no gators. Now we've done like 12 of them since then. It's been 3 years ago. But we learned a lot from that project, and that was, for business, a complete loss. But for learning,
yeah,
it was awesome. I mean, I'm so grateful that he just said, hey, I trust you.
Yeah.
Same guy brought in an alligator gar. He wanted the same. It was 7 foot 3 inches. So I called the guy, an acquaintance down in southern Louisiana, and I was like, hey, dude, I've never done one. He goes, good luck. I was like, what do you mean good luck? He goes, 7 foot, they don't make a form for that. You're going to have to carve one. So he just gave me the guidelines of making a box, pouring foam. I mean, we poured like $600 in foam into this box. It was like literally almost a third of the $800 two-part foam kit we had. Poured it, and we shaped it close to the shape of the alligator gar, and we carved it. So we took the skin out.
That's wild.
Treated it. We soaked the head, cut it off completely. And dude, if you ever, and you'll maybe meet this guy one day. He's like, if it's not mine, I don't want it. Don't even, if you can't do it, that's cool. It needs to be my animal.
That's how I am.
And then he brought us a desert bighorn. Oof. I mean, so you can't screw up this kind of stuff. Yeah. So you're like, this guy didn't leave it with the guy that does it all the time.
He
But
brought
it
it to
come
us.
out awesome. So
Yeah.
we put those pictures on our Facebook page, and we're just getting our website revamped. So we have the gator, the alligator gar. Actually, I think she put the desert bighorn on because that was pretty
Well,
impressive.
one thing I find interesting is you guys are not big social media people.
No,
Not even a little bit. Like,
If you message me on Messenger, my wife's gonna yell at me and say answer that because I barely get on. I would love to say yes, but
all right. So back to the same question. Biggest challenge. That was project. Same question as a business owner, being a taxidermist, business and a professional. What's your biggest challenge professionally?
professionally as far as an animal or business?
Business.
Oh man, it's trying to pay your bills. And so if you know me 17 years ago, which you did, I lived at my shop. So after I got my divorce, I lived at the shop with my kids. And my kids still, to a point, and I love them, and they know this. If they listen to this, they know. And they are pretty humble kids. And they both are successful now. They're in their late 20s and mid-20s. One just had a baby. I'm so proud of them. But
I can tell.
it's hard to like make money and do something.
You got them going.
Yeah. Gonna take a break? Let's take a break. Sure.
Obviously, I love my kids, but I love my job. So it's hard to make money from one to the other. But we made it happen, and it was good. And I get to still do this for a living. And my kids are successful. They're not as mad as they used to be. Everything worked out, but
Well, I think it's just a testament to how much you give a shit. You know what I mean? And it shows in your work. You know what I mean?
I give a shit.
You definitely do. You definitely do. And it's why we're buddies. You know?
And the sacrifices you got to go to.
Yeah,
to
I
be
mean-
successful.
Yeah, I think it really is exactly like a testament to the small business owner who comes from nothing and creates something. It's not just pencil and paper. It's not just it's blood, sweat, and tears. It's you know, it's awesome, dude. And I think it's undeniable that you put every ounce of effort and soul and give a shit that in like, and it's why I drive 2.5 hours to bring you my shit, you know? And it's why I tell dudes that live 10 minutes from me to go, hey man, I'll take it for you if you want, like, but this is my guy. And this is why.
I don't cry. It's just when you say, you know, what did you do to start? And then my family gets involved.
Yeah.
They're the ones that ate it. Then I meet my wife to help me get through the stuff that I couldn't. I can't do paperwork and do tax.
Bro, you found the recipe.
Yeah,
You found it. You
she's
found
she's
it.
actually so awesome. And I tell her, I try to tell her as much as I can, but I can't because you're just like, wow.
Yeah.
If you didn't, like yesterday, she spent 9 hours doing tax stuff.
Yeah.
You think I would have done that?
Yeah.
I'd have got a letter in the mail and said, hey, you owe this and you're late.
Yeah.
So, yes, I am very grateful.
Just to lighten it up a little bit, what's your favorite animal to mount?
Bear.
Bear?
It is
Yeah.
our favorite.
Yeah?
Because you could do so much stuff. And it's got long hair and you can get away with murder, but a bear has characteristics that it could change from zone or region to region, from place to place. So if what the skin can do, you can do with it. So it's pretty cool. There's no bear that's the like.
What's your least favorite?
And I'm probably going to retire one day doing it fish. But I've
So I brought you my buddy's crappie, that fucking awesome crappie.
Yeah.
And you told me, like, Garrett's crappie, and you go, it's a repro? And I'm like, no. You're like, he wants the fish.
that was the last real one I done.
And you told me, you're like, hey, just tell Garrett this is the last fucking
It was.
real fish I'm doing.
It takes too much time. It bought on a real fish
And
after
it came out so good, dude. It looks so good.
The amount of hours you have in a real fish to prep it and make sure it's clean and degreased is 3 times longer than a repro. So business wise, bad.
Yeah.
So I am learning to say no to some things, and it's hard to say no when somebody's so excited and you're like,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay. It's easy to say that. So I got to learn to say no
Yeah.
to some things where we can speed up, get into other stuff and still do a good job.
Nice.
That's why a real fish is hard to skin mount.
I've only got a couple things left. What do you got?
Well, I was just going to say for the audience, the difference between those two mounts. The skin mount, you're skinning the fish and putting that actual skin onto
A form. Yeah.
And then the repro, you're making a form.
Yeah, they make so
painting
many
it
of
and
them.
stuff.
Yeah, it comes in blank white, and then you just have to put in all the detail, then put on all the color, and then blend everything with some, fish
Airbrush
sparkles. Yeah,
shit.
airbrush, hand paints, gloss. I mean, there's a lot that goes in it, but I love it. After it's done, you're like, I could do a million of these, but then you're like, oh shit, it took 10 hours to do a 12-inch bluegill or a 15-inch crappie.
Yeah. My last 2 questions. What still impresses you? Because I can only imagine that, taking like what we talked about earlier with the kid coming in with the dad and their first buck, whatever. I'm sure that's amazing and emotional and all that. But like, after doing it for as long as you've done with seeing, I can only imagine there's not much you haven't seen. What still impresses you?
I mean, there's everything that comes in. It's always a challenge because nothing's ever perfect. I think we've done on an average probably 50 to 80 bears a year, and I think we've had 3 forms that we didn't have to cut. So everything gets cut up to fit to the skin. Sometimes it's close, sometimes it's way off, but the position they want it. So impressive wise, I don't know. I mean,
Like, is it the size of the animal? Is it,
is it
the
the
story?
story?
Is it
the story is
person,
more
or-
impressive because when you hear the story and then 8 months, 10 months, a year later, there it comes. You're like, I remember that, and
Yeah.
I happen to remember. I don't remember a lot, but I remember stories. So
Yeah, you have been very I'm not sure what the word complimentary or whatever to me about our style of hunting and
what's my personal favorite. So
yeah, so like that's been like just even knowing that we don't kill the biggest animals, but we do it on our own, and it's grassroots, and it's like nobody's holding our hand. You have been very complimentary and gracious to say, dude,
I know how hard it is.
I'm impressed. I'm fucking impressed.
Yeah, look, if we were all multimillionaires and we can afford a brown bear hunt, which, kudos to all those guys that do that.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had it, I probably would do it too. But in my range of things, a self-guided black bear hunt or a self-guided elk hunt or a self-guided moose hunt is my realm. So I can relate to that a lot.
Yeah.
Even though I relate to the guys that bring me a desert bighorn or a doll sheep or a grizzly or a lion or a leopard, I get it. I respect it, and we're going to treat it no different than yours. So
Right,
to me,
for sure.
how big it is or what it is doesn't matter. To me, it's that's what you can do and that's what you like, and I can't F it up.
Yeah.
If every taxidermist thinks like that, everybody would be.
That should be a taxidermist slogan. We can't fuck it up.
Yeah.
Like I love that.
I mean, they're bringing you something, and for me to be doing it for a full-time job, I have to charge what I charge to pay my bills. I mean, you really can't F it up. So we're insured. I go about pretty much every extreme I can to make sure somebody's covered or I'm covered, because you have to.
Yeah.
And social media is the death of small business in general. So, I mean, I get afraid of, if somebody says they don't like it, fuck, at the end of the day, that guy might not like it. Then 100 people, that guy will tell 10. Those 10 will tell 10, and then you're an idiot. That
Yeah, it's
doesn't
like
know
how much reach does that get? Someone posted on
Yeah.
the Ohio Whitetail page or whatever that has 50,000 members.
I don't want to F something up. I mean, we had an issue where a guy didn't like his backpack mount of a bear. Good people. I'm not mad at him. I don't want to make something look that I don't think will look like that as your mount. And we respected each other, and his next bear he took somewhere else. Cool. There's some things I don't agree with, and I guess that's just more communication. So I want to work on that.
You're never going to please everybody. It's just that's an impossible task.
Yeah, dude. But
I think people fuck up trying to.
I don't want to F up. So, I mean, my wife was like, I took a picture of 5 bears that we had to skin that day where he said, I don't want it to look like that. I mean, it looked like a dead bear in a backpack. And it looked just like the bears on the bench, dead and rolled up. And he didn't like it, which was, I get it.
Did he elaborate and say what he did want?
He said he did. And then I really trust my guys that work for me. They have zero reason. They know we're going to make mistakes, but we're going to fix them. So he's like, I promise you he didn't say nothing that this is the exact way he wanted it. He wanted it looking like a picturesque, perfect thing. And
in a backpack?
Yeah.
Which is strange.
So look, teachers their own. I'm
right.
I'm not in that.
Just,
so if he listens to this,
yeah,
he knows who he is, and it's fine. It's his thing. That's his style, and that's what he wanted. I can't do that. So I have to learn how to communicate with our clients a little bit better.
Yeah.
So if they just want that, I can say, hey, I'm out.
Yeah.
You should take it to this guy, and I can give him like 7 different references that'll probably do that.
Yeah.
Because
It's fine.
you have a huge obstacle with making the customer happy, but then it's also your work that you're doing.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
So
I don't want
to do something dumb just to appease the customer.
I don't know this fella, and I'm sure he's a good dude, but I don't know if he'll say, well, the taxidermist effed it up. That's where I get afraid of, because those people don't know that's what he wanted. He won't communicate that.
Right.
So I don't want to be the jackwagon that says, that guy doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
So at a point, whether I'm right or wrong, I have to learn to say no to something. So whether I'm not that good or good at it, I just have to say I don't want that. That's my biggest problem, because I have to keep business coming in, and it's hard to say no.
Yeah.
It's so hard, dude. Like when I know you're going to say your antelope, that's the way it was. And you'll tell everybody that. I know that, but I don't know if somebody else would do that.
Right. Right. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. So we're
That's
coming up on an hour.
Did you get both your antelope done?
No.
Just one? Okay.
Actually, I think I gave him my cape from the other one.
Got it.
Because I wasn't just for
Great
him.
condition, by the way.
Thanks. Yeah. So just for the listeners, if I can give any advice on caping, I've caped a lot of animals. I've caped a bear, an antelope. I practiced on my elk. This will come full circle. Bear, antelope, a lot of deer. I do not cape or try to attempt any fucking turkeys.
I wondered about
I just bring the whole
You
turkey.
bring the whole turkey.
Yeah,
Okay.
bring the whole turkey.
Don't gut it. Don't get
Okay, he told me, I'm like, I kind of want the meat. He goes, not if you want to mount it.
So you try to freeze it? Is that what you try to do?
Yeah,
Or-
just put it in a plastic bag.
Yeah.
And there's no taxidermist say, you go ahead and cape it for me. They'll just say, bring in the whole thing.
Yeah, because I'm sure it's more work when somebody fucks it up.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to get down the road of DIY caping, how I started, and he's been very complimentary to me. I'm like, the capes I bring him, I give him extra length, and I learned to do that by starting on does. Anytime I killed a doe, I'd be like, all right, I'm going to practice on this thing. It's work.
It's great practice.
And that's how I started. You get to learn how to cut. You learn where on the rib cage to cut back and do the circle and all that. And you can look that shit up on YouTube. But if you're going to practice on shit that doesn't matter, like a doe.
If you're just going to eat it, you might as well practice on it.
Yep.
Or go talk to whoever you want to do your taxidermy. Go talk to the taxidermist and ask them what they want, because everybody's going to be a little different.
Yep. And so always, if they give you a landmark, go past the landmark. go
a little bit
past.
extra is
Yeah.
always nice.
Yeah, for sure. And got anything?
No, not really.
All right, my
We
last
about hit it.
thing. My last thing. If somebody wants to get into taxidermy, whether it be hobby or, you know, I have to assume, did you start as a hobbyist and then go, I think I can make money at this? Or were you like, I'm going to make a career out of this?
It's a combo of a bunch of stuff. So I had a guy, I spent a lot of money on this trip, and I went to some guys that weren't expensive, and I realized I got what I paid for. You know, the job was good. I just wanted a little bit more, so I went to somebody else, and I played money as you get what you pay for. So I went to somebody.
So you kind of intern, basically?
No, I just took my stuff to somebody. This was
As a customer.
Yeah, it was the late 90s, and I got back something that I was not too happy, and they had 2 more animals to do. And I said, hey, I'll just do it myself. And they laughed at me. They're like, sure, buddy. So I was like, And I paid him whatever he asked for him at the time. I cut all the racks off. I got new capes to replace them. I haven't mounted them still. So my stuff is always on the back burner. But, you know, now it's so many people said, you can't do it. You ain't going to do it full time. And that to me I think I'm pretty good with my hands.
Lit the fire.
Yeah. And then my dearest friends were like, hey, you're a city slicker. You're not going to mount a deer. And I'm like, and now my work is more important than hunting. So I love my job. So I don't get to hunt as often, but when I do, like tonight I have a meeting with 12 bear hunters that are going with me to New Brunswick. And I'm so excited to see all their faces because they're all so jacked. They're so jacked to go, and they're going to have such a good time. They have no idea. And we're going to order some pizza and have some beer, and we're going to have a good time. And I'm going to tell them all the layout of the hunt. A lot of guys haven't gone. Some guys have gone. So it's going to be, meddling all those different personalities into one group is going to be the challenge.
Yeah.
So I've learned that, you know, everybody is not the same. They butt heads. So I think this group is going to be awesome. But that's what tonight, that to me is more important now than just me shooting a bear. I've shot 3 bears and I'm happy.
So if you were to give someone advice, if someone listens to this and they're like, I want to get into this.
Oh, yeah. I went off subject. Right?
What would your advice be to like start getting into it?
You have to start as a hobbyist if you rely on money. We made nothing. I mean, literally nothing for 5 years, and then the next 2 years we kind of busted even. And then after that, I met my wife. So you need somebody to help you with some aspect of business if you want to do it full time.
Right. Well, what about just learning the trade?
I mean, there's schools and there's some people that are just amazing that offer schools for it, so you can go learn. And some people do it for a year or two, and they're like, fuck this. I'll just have somebody else do it.
Do you have interns?
I don't.
Would you take one?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
situational.
We get calls every year. Hey, I want to learn how to do it. I won't charge you no money. Well, technically, for a business, you have to pay somebody to be there. It's hard to show that they're an intern and they're learning. So I rather just not mess with it. I don't want you to bring me your antelope or your deer or your bear and say, I'm going to say, hey, I got an intern that's going to flush that down. You'd be like, fuck that.
Right.
So I can't do that to somebody.
Right.
It's like when we have paramedic students on the
Yes,
squad.
exactly. I was thinking the same thing. So you're going to do
I feel
what?
guilty. Yeah, exactly. So I don't do it.
Okay.
And it's not like, and I always get that afraid of what if this guy that's local learns something and then he'll go start his own thing and then, you know, he'll take 20, 30 customers that I need
To keep the lights on.
You're right. And then they'll come back to me eventually, hopefully, or they keep him. And then I cut myself out of some business. But now it doesn't matter because when we have some guys that, hell, we deliver half the year to Florida, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Michigan. I have a lot of customers in Michigan and Pennsylvania, but that doesn't bother me as much. But I just don't want somebody that's raw learning on somebody else's stuff. Like we just hired actually a part-time guy that I'm paying. Young kid, but that's how Matt started. They got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So we sit with him, we babysit him, and I get aggravated. I'm like, hey, you got to do something. But he doesn't know what to do. So he's learning how to skin. So the first 2 weeks, he didn't touch nothing. He watched us. Then he started just taking the face off because he's seen it so many times. He knows what to do, and we're watching him. So he's got down pat after 2 months. So now he's going to start learning how to sew. You got to start somewhere. So, I mean, it is what it is. I'd rather pay somebody and feel good about busting their balls if they F up or if they're not paying attention.
Right. That makes sense.
You'd rather be their boss than their teacher, per se.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds bad, but I mean, you're dealing with not your stuff. You're dealing with other people's stuff. Mm-hmm. So there's got to be a fine line of, I'm paying you, so you're either going to do it right or you're not going to do it. And sometimes I think about if I hire like this fella, hopefully everything works out by the summer. He's pretty good. He's actually really good. I just hoping that he does what I expect when he's in there. You know what I mean? Because he's off his own. So it's easier for me to teach somebody from scratch the way we want it done than find somebody that's been doing it for a while. And then you're trying to tell them, I need that eyeball top lid tucked in about 1/8 of an inch higher. And they're like, what the? Yeah. And I'm like, that's what I need.
So I think this is a good wrap up is I was, I'm going to try to film the best I can this Alaska trip. Right. And I reached out to an outdoor, he runs a film school for outdoors filming, hunts, shit like that. And I said, dude, I have zero knowledge or experience. And he goes, fucking great.
Yeah,
those are the people that we want.
You don't want
because I don't have to unfuck all the shit that you were taught improperly.
You know, it's not even unfucking, but if somebody's doing something that works for them, they want the next person to come in and work with them or for them to do it like
and
them.
almost validate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that to me is very important. Yeah. So when Jack came, Jack's been doing it for 35, almost 40 years. He's 60 years old. And he goes, hey, I said, why you want to work for me and not for yourself? He goes, I'm just done dealing with people. He goes, I love half my customers, but I don't love the other half. So he was like, I just want to do my job that I love and go home.
That's awesome. That's a unicorn.
Yeah. And the sad thing is, he goes, I'm done at 65. If you want me to sweep up some or teach some new kids something, cool. But he goes, I've done well in my life, and I took him away from something where he made pretty good money, and he was a guy that did it out of his house, and he did a good job. So I feel pretty blessed and lucky that I got this guy to come work for us. That's awesome. He does all our deer. He did your deer.
Ah, awesome.
And I finished it. So, I mean, he's going to teach the new boy how to mount a deer, and right now he's in the middle of just learning how to skin, and now he's getting his balls busted about how to sew. Loop stitch, baseball stitch. No such thing as a baseball stitch in our shop, so it's got to be a loop stitch.
Okay.
So I mean, I'm going to have him to show where I can still keep finishing stuff, how to do it properly.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, what else are you going to ask for?
Right.
I'll never be a millionaire. I'll tell you that right now.
None of us will.
Dude, I don't think there's any millionaire tax.
We're a bunch of average Joes.
I mean,
man.
there's guys. I mean, there's guys that are so awesome and they've got it down. I mean, I know of 5 shops that have like 15 to 20 employees, and they're just my heroes. I mean, they figure out how to give something back that's awesome and get a lot of it. So you need people. So they figure out how to get those people and those people to stay. So I'm learning that.
Well, I think it starts with the head honcho, and I think if you want to do it, it's yours. You know what I mean? Like so. That's probably the biggest compliment I can give you is that. Thank you for what you do and your friendship as well, man. It means a lot.
Well, you guys mean a lot to me. So when I see your faces or a lot of people, I mean, I'm grateful. So that's good.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing all your stories with us and all the audience and stuff. I know it's a lot to ask for somebody just to get on a podcast and start talking and telling all the stories that you've told.
We'll see you next year.
right.
When you're delivering the moose and stuff in a couple of years. Right. Yeah, hopefully.
So awesome, man. So Zoran Savesky, Highpoint Taxidermy, Thornville, Ohio.
Yeah. Best way to reach you?
By phone call.
Okay.
Just regular phone call.
Perfect.
Yeah. And if he doesn't answer, don't get
We'll
busted.
answer. We'll answer a phone call.
Like leave a message.
Facebook probably not so good. Instagram. So my wife is going to start into that heavy, so she'll probably answer.
So I did a pre-podcast picture of the set, and I tagged Highpoint Taxidermy. So tell Sabrina to like blow it up, like share it.
She will.
Whatever.
She's pretty good at that. I'm like, hey, just calm down. She's like, you haven't put nothing on your Facebook page in almost a year. I'm like, it's okay. I mean, the guys are happy coming in, and we have
Customers
enough.
are happy. They're still
Seems to
coming
be
in.
working out still.
Yeah. So she's like, well, I'm gonna start putting some pictures on. I'm like, whatever. I don't care. So she's grabbing, pictures off her camera, off my phone, and she's putting them all together. So in the next few months, she's gonna load up some stuff. There's probably about, in the last couple of years, at least 1,000. It's gonna be overload.
Ooh,
Wow.
awesome,
Man.
So I don't want to just put big deer on. I want to put everything on. So that's our goal.
Awesome, dude. Hey, thanks for coming up, man.
Yeah,
I really
thanks.
appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thanks for being on.
Awesome, bro. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
Pleasure.
This is the Deer Shot Podcast, episode 80 something, and we are out.